Leslie, I'm a recovering alcoholic. My sobriety date is November 2nd, 1988. I'm from Los Angeles, California. Yes, ma'am. You can't see my whole face. I spent all this time on this makeup. You better see my face. It took me 4 hours. Ralph was still trying to rush me, and I was putting on my last mascara. So, yeah, thank you. Wouldn't no man do that. I like girls. Anyway, thank you for breaking the ice. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California, but I currently live in Atlanta, Georgia for the last 20 years. I've got 34 years of continuous sobriety a day at a time. I came in and took one white chip. I got 15 minutes, so I want you to listen fast. I don't talk fast. You might just be listening slow, so catch up. I'm not scared of you. I have to say that out loud because I'm terrified, but I play it off very well. It works real well here. Thank you to the committee of one person that asked me, what's his name, Brad? Yeah, I knew that. Brad, for asking me to do this, and you know, when you tell the truth, it's not a problem. So I only got 15 minutes, start my clock now. You know, the 11th step is any step for me. You know, if you stay around here long enough, there's no favorite step for me. I like them all. You tell me what step do you want to talk on. I said, what step you going to give me? That wasn't like that when I came into the rooms. I didn't even know the Serenity Prayer. I'm a recovering Catholic. Any recovering Catholics in here? All right. I know some of y'all get mad when I say recovering Catholics. I've had people call me after the meeting and say, why did you say recovering Catholic? It's because the God that I knew back then is dang on sure not. I see, I almost got it. It's not the same God that I have today. And AA taught me how to get a God of my own understanding. And now, you know, to just put this in a nice little its own little basket. The 11th step is the step, I call it the prayer meditation step. And I'm supposed to be doing what I do in the morning. And I'm going to take you on a quick cruise real quick, because when I came into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, I knew the Lord's Prayer because the nuns used to beat you into submission. So you knew that prayer. But when I came in here and you got the 11th step prayer and the 3rd step prayer and the 7th step prayer, and then you got all these other prayers, I did not know anything. I was so green, I just stood there looking dumbfounded and lost as you guys prayed for me. But now I'm a big girl. I'm a grown woman in recovery. And prayer meditation is the thing that helps me stay in conscious contact with the God that I've developed a day at a time. That God has shifted, and he shifts often, and he comes in different waves. And God, I'm tethered to this program because I've done the things that have blocked me from the God of my lack of understanding when I was new and I was a Catholic recovering girl that was scared of the petty God and the God who would smite thee and your leg will fall off and you have leprosy and don't look back, you'll turn to sand. I was scared of that God because he was the punishing God. He was the God that if you do this, then this is going to happen to you and your family. He was the reciprocity. I'm going to get you back, God. But today I understand that God only got so many cards in his deck, and his deck only has about 4 or 5 cards, and it's love, forgiveness, grace and mercy. Just those 4 are enough. So I know that anything that's not out of those 4 categories is usually self-imposed or just world-imposed. So I no longer blame God for things that I even started, or somebody human that also suffers from this thing called a dis-ease of the mind, body, and the soul. Now I get to look at you in your face and see the dis-ease and the fear and see what is happening with you. And no longer am I mad at you as much, because I too suffer from that. So what I have learned to do is, once I begin, thank you for liking that, I come to be tethered to this God of my own understanding. It's like being a friend. I can't say I'm friends with Chris. I don't even know Chris. And even if I got Chris's number, I never called him. And why? How can I say I'm your friend if I've never contacted and stayed in communication with you? You know, it's something amazing about morning time when you wake up in the morning. See, I'm not an early riser. All y'all was out here at 5, dark 30 in the morning walking. That ain't me. I'm turning over to the cool side of the pillow. But what I do know is this. Is that which is the giver of the gift of sobriety, the giver of the gift of sanity, the giver of the gift of restoring my mind to sanity, the giver of the gift of money, and the giver of the gift of jobs, and the giver of the gift of language and my brain function and my body function. I have to stay in contact with that giver of the gift, because if I lose contact, I start going back to sleep. And if I start going back to sleep, I start sliding into a spiritual coma. And that's what brought me in here, because I wasn't awake and I wasn't aware. So now that I've established this spiritual awakening, I have to stay in touch with whatever that thing is. Doesn't matter what you call it. They told me early on, just don't call it Leslie Strange. That's my last name, don't laugh. So it's developed and it's changed and it's morphed into some other things. See, I'm 63, almost 63 years old, and I don't know about you, first and second row, but getting on your knees at 60 and 70 is not as sexy as when you was 20 and 30, 20 and 30. So I thought that meditation had to look a certain way. I had to get into the lotus position. My legs don't cross like they used to. And I thought I had to burn the candle, and I thought I had to hold my fingers together, and I had to sit in this position and do some ohms and sink to, and no, I can't get on my knees today, so what do? Just real simple. Simple is so sexy. That's why they say, keep it simple, sister. Keep it simple, sister. Simple is so sexy. When my eyes open up in the morning, I say, thank you. Thank you for waking me up. Thank you for keeping me alive because somebody's child didn't wake up. Thank you for restoring my brain to be able to think enough to thank you. Just thank you for my house and it didn't burn down. Thank you for the small things. And whatever the Spirit puts in my head, I just thank you for it. I live alone, so I got a lot of thank you time. And I thank you. Now, that prayer doesn't take but about 5.2 seconds, because if you're old like me, you got to go to the bathroom real quick. So I got to make that prayer real fast. Don't judge me. Somebody got to pee right now. Anyway, so I say that prayer real simply, real succinctly. This is how I've developed. That wasn't how I was, but I've developed into this real simple girl, and I'm like, thank you. And God, whatever you would like to interrupt my day with today, whatever it is you want me to do today, just let me know, because I'm connected, because I can hear now. Because see, the God of my understanding now speaks much louder than the God of my disease. See, my mind, my magic magnifying mind spoke so much louder than the God that I didn't even have an idea who he is. But by practicing these principles in all my affairs, I am now in touch with the great I am. So when I wake up and I lay there and I say thank you, and this is what I plan on doing today, because it talks about that in the big book. Say, I like to put skin on it, as Ralph, and he comes from the same home area. We like to put skin on this big book, so the skin looks like this. Thank you for this day, and I have plans for today, and I got to get up and go to work, and I think about my day and who all I have to encounter, because see, I can only stay sober for just this moment right now. So for this moment, God, okay, what did I leave off at last night? Okay, I got to get up and do this, and I said, but, however, you can't interrupt my day with any 12-step call I get, whether it's someone in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous or someone that just needs to talk to Leslie. And then I'm able to get up. I got 7 minutes. I like to compare getting up out of the bed after I prayed. It's like on an airplane. See, we fly a lot. Ralph and I fly a lot. And when that bell comes on and the captain comes on, he goes, I don't do imitation, but it sounded good. Ladies and gentlemen, we're at 3,400 feet, 34,000 feet, and at this time, the seat belts are able to be unfastened, and you can roam the cabin freely. Enjoy yourselves. See, that's my announcement, to be able to get up out my bed and roam the cabin of life freely. But baby, when that turbulence hits, and these other two ladies going to talk about during the day when the turbulence hits, and then they tell you, okay, go back to your seat. You better run back to your seat and click, click. Fasten on, baby, because it's going to be a hell of a ride. Yeah, I flew from Atlanta to Colorado. We hit some pockets. I was like, woo, God, this ain't how I'm going to go right now. I'm not ready. This is not sexy. I ain't got no makeup on. At least if they find part of my body, I want to have half my makeup on or something. So that is my free to move about the cabin of life prayer. And I can tell, see, it's something about the God of my understanding. He gives you, he tethers you. He's my anchor. It's my anchor. And he gives me just enough slack that I can float away from him just enough. But there's something about when you get that spiritual connection and you know you're a little off-centered. Anybody been off-center? Like, I don't know what's wrong when you call your sponsor. I don't know what's wrong, but everybody getting on my nerves today. And why are you chewing? And why is he swallowing? And why is she blinking? Why did he keep getting up? Why he got... And the first thing, my sponsor is so phenomenal. First thing she say, well, baby, how did you start your day? And I think about it. Oops, I rolled over and I picked up the phone and I looked at Facebook. Oh, Lord. Any rollover in the middle of the night and then the phone, pick up the phone and start looking at texts and hear ching, ching, ching. You know, today I try not to, and I'm not perfect at it. But I try not to even touch this device until I've spoken to the Most High. Because it ain't going to start off right. But the good thing about this program, and these two ladies going to tell you, but I'm going to give you a preview. The good thing about this program and about having a conscious contact, when you lose consciousness for a nanosecond, something tugs at your inner spirit. You know, I like to call it the energy. The energy. What you feel up here is my energy, because I connected to God before I came to you. And I connected to God the best I can every day. Ralph may not see, but I'm trying to connect to God and stay Don't judge him either. So I want to stay connected because it's that power. When I came in here powerless, I didn't come in here powerless to stay powerless. I came in here powerless to become power-filled so that I can be power-free from the dis-ease. Now, some people say I'm always and forever powerless. I'm powerless over drugs and alcohol, absolutely. But I am no longer powerless because it's that thing that fills me with the power, and I have to acknowledge it. If you're new around here and you don't even know, what is this woman talking about? She done said God 15 times. I'm not feeling God. In fact, I'm an atheist, so I'm an agnostic. Trust, I'm an agnostic. When everything doesn't go my way, I forget about the morning prayer. I get up annoyed, and I got to call this so-and-so back because they keep calling my phone. I'm not always. We're not perfect, we're progressive. And there are many days I've gone the days mad at God, waking up angry at God in the mornings and going about my day. And the results of my day, by grace, may be that I made it through that day sober, but I hit some speed bumps. And those speed bumps could have been avoided had I just paused. You know, so when I get up out of the bed and I'm able to move about the cabin of life and I'm disrupted with my own thinking, because it's usually my own thinking that puts me in a quandary. It's usually my own thinking that puts me in a suppose and what if. But if I change and flip my spiritual, they said something about the lenses in your glasses and the 12 and 12 are backwards, inside out. So I just take my glasses, my spiritual glasses, and I flip them. And I look at the things differently. But did I invite God in the flipping? Every time what I do today and what I do every time I wake up, I ask God, help me to see and hear him. I'm going to say this. To me, the most perfect prayer is the 11-step prayer. And I don't have it recited in my soul where I can recite it verbatim. But one of the things that I practice is to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved, to forgive than to be forgiven. And if I live just by that little piece, I get a little peace. See, my energy doesn't change whether I'm in a crowd of however many here or it's one-on-one. My energy is what God has given. My energy is my enthusiasm about this God thing, about this life process. My energy, listen to the word energy, my energy, my energy, my energy. It's what I connect with to stay right here. And I can feel it when I'm off. I came into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, selfish, self-centered, self-seeking. Page 62 in the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous, tells you 11 forms of self in the first 2 paragraphs. My self-centeredness, self-centered, whenever I pray and meditate and I give it to God and I ask him to clothe me in his protection and use me for his service, because my channel is no longer blocked. My channel is no longer blocked because I've done 4 through 9 and I try to stay awake and aware of all my defects and shortcomings and my fears. So I'm no longer blocked. I can see the invisible By the time you get to the 12th step, and I'm jumping a little bit ahead, I'm sorry, forgive me, but by the time you get to the 11th step, you'll be able to see, feel, hear, and do differently. And sometimes I have to step outside and say, who just said, I love you, I forgive you, to the unforgivable and the unlovable? I came in self-centered, and what this program does in staying in conscious contact constantly takes practice and discipline. It's not easy. But I can take the dash off the self-centered because my self is now centered with the Most High. Now, I call it Most High, the one with no name, the spirit, the universe, the energy, the vortex, whatever you want to call it. But I just learned. Just call it. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Excuse me. And now we have Veronica from Arizona.
I'm not following that. No, I feel like, Austin Powers, and he gets in the elevator and he's like, ding. Give me the steps, I don't want to follow that. I know, right? There was a couple of things. First of all, I'm very nervous. My ego, of course, wanted to be selected. But then as soon as I get selected, I'm like, no, I've got nothing to share at the mothership. I've got nothing to possibly offer you. And I had a couple of things that came into my mind. One is humility. And my favorite definition of humility is a modest sense of oneself, right? I'm not the best. I'm not the worst. I'm right in the middle. And I'm okay with right in the middle today, So, after following that, I got to remind myself, right, to just be okay with who I am, right, and what I'm going to say today. Janet, you have to time me. Are you timing me? Okay. Because I'm so nervous. I just want to say quickly what Fellowship of the Spirit has meant to me. When I first got sober, I was about 9 months sober, and I was sitting on some amends, and it was taking me a long time to go through the steps. And it's not because I didn't have the willingness. It's just because that's how I was led, and that's okay. And about 9 months sober, the head thug in charge, as Mickey has once said, and I loved that, right? He was a big book thumper, the head thug in charge. He found me, and he saved my life because he showed me the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and he showed me the steps that guarantee that if you do not do these things, you will drink. And I was on fire, right? And wow, and it radically changed my spirit, and it radically changed how I felt about Alcoholics Anonymous, because I was 23 when I got sober, and at 23, you're not very happy to be in Alcoholics Anonymous while the whole world is graduating college and traveling the world, and I'm in AA, And I was not happy. I was still driving my 1985 Corolla, living at my parents' house, and having to make curfew, and it just wasn't a fun thing for me. So I wielded my sword. I loved, when Derek said that last night, because, I was going into meetings indignant little, 2 years sober, and I'm telling people with decades sober that they have misquoted the big book. They left out a word, and I'm telling them how they're doing things wrong. And what I liked that we share this common experience in that, but I became really isolated by doing that, by telling people what they were doing wrong. And I heard recently in a meeting, there's a person, she said, soon as I judge you, I've created some separation between you and I. As soon as I create one judgment, right, I've created some distance. And that's where that left me. I was swinging the sword, right? And really, I was not living the principles. If you know my conduct, and some of you do, I was not living, by the AA principles. And I'm so grateful for the train of circumstances that all came together, to bring me to Fellowship of the Spirit. It was Jeff Gould who invited Bart and Tara to Nikki and Jason's, and I was there for that dinner, and then they started to go to Fellowship of the Spirit, and we kind of separated ways. And I was miserable. I was, I don't know, maybe 7 years sober, and I ended up at Fellowship of the Spirit, and Erica Maynard spoke. And I was in the very back row, denial aisle, right? There we go. Hello. I see you back there. I still hang out there. I'm still super comfortable in the back row. I'm slouching and, anyways. She and I talk about this all the time. This seas parted, and when I spoke to her after the meeting, she said, I saw you, And what she meant is I saw your spirit, I think, right? And I went to her room and we talked. And what I love about Alcoholics Anonymous and what I love about the Fellowship of the Spirit is that there's a principle of love, And I was coming out of some crazy shit I was coming out of some crazy stuff at that time, and nobody judged me. They said, "Hey, you're sick, trying to get well," and they loved me, and that's really how I'm trying to live my life today. And what Fellowship of the Spirit has taught me too is some discipline, right? People in FOTS are diligent. They're diligent about their 10th step. They're diligent about their prayer and meditation life, and they're diligent about working with other people. And those were the missing pieces in my life. And I'm so grateful that I have found that in Fellowship of the Spirit, and that's really what I'm trying to do today. Is the ultimate principle is love. So when Erica asked me to talk about the 11th step, I was like, oh yeah, I've been diligent because I've been working, because I know that FOTS is coming up, and I can't come and and when people ask me, how's your spirit, I don't want to lie, so I've been really diligent about my morning prayer. And I have a little meditation buddy, and we text each other every day, hey, woke up early, did my meditation, and I got to tell you, when I do that, and I've been doing it consistently, I'm really happy, Things are just rolling off my back like it's not that big of a deal. And she's like, actually, I want you to do the nightly review. And I'm like, oh, God, right? Of course you're going to ask me to talk about that because I'm not the greatest on that. And she's like, well, you just get to be honest. And I'm like, great, and I started to spin, and she asked me yesterday. And so I've been spinning for about 24 hours now. But then I kind of stepped back, and I was like, wait a minute, I am doing that. I've got a sponsor who gave me a packet, a 30-day packet, and it's controversial. It's 10 and 11 together. It's 10 and 11 together, right? And it asks me at night the questions, right? Have I been resentful? And if I say yes, it says, did you write your inventory about it, right? And so I make sure that I write my inventory. Did you have any fear? If I check yes, it says, write your fear, right? And so I have been doing that. What I want to really capitalize on today is the word constructively reviewing my day. You have those moments in AA that you just don't get it until you get it. You don't understand the little sayings in AA until you have your own experience with it. And at about 8 years sober, I had an experience with the ego. And I finally understood what it was. And it was that the swing from I'm the lowest of the low to the highest of the high, right? And I can't, my ego just didn't know how to chill right in the middle. And so, when I got into, I think AA and I started to do the 11-step nightly review, I was really looking at my character defects, and I was really, working hard on those things. And then at about 8 years sober, I thought everything that I was doing was wrong. And my ego swung back the other way. And it went from, that feeling of I always knew there was something different. You guys say that, right? I always knew there was something different, and I didn't get it. And it was because my ego was protecting me. I came from a ranching family, big cowboy, and you don't admit weakness, that I felt different. There's no way, right? And I hung on to that for 8 years. I didn't identify with that in Alcoholics Anonymous. And what happened is my ego swung the other way. And all of a sudden in sobriety, I'm the biggest piece of ever. And I'm not doing anything right. And every time that I take this inventory, I've made another mistake. I've done it again, right? And I became so hard on myself, like so hard on myself. And I realized that there was no constructive inventory. I could not see any positive assets in myself. And I was thinking about this because in this inventory that I write at night, there's a section that says, what have you done well today? And there are times when I answer that and I bawl. I bawl just thinking about something that I've done well. Or I think about something that I love myself, for. And it's been a real struggle. I'll tell you the truth. It's been a real struggle to get out of the committee that's in my head that's telling me that I've done, I keep doing everything wrong. Thank you. And part of that is, I don't know if it's my alcoholism. I don't know if it's a soul sickness. I don't know if it's, part of my family. It recently happened. I made an amends. I realized I wasn't being generous with my time with my sister. She asked me to take care of her kids, and I put a little bit of a stipulation on it. And I went and I made amends, and part of my family culture is, stop doing the thing. And I get that. But then there's no room to be human. There's no room to make mistakes. And that's how I was treating myself. There was no room to make mistakes, and I get sad thinking about it, because I think, the ultimate principle is love. Truly, and I think that's loving you, and I think that's also returning a little bit of that to myself. Now, can that go askew? Absolutely, right? Selfishness and self-centeredness to my core, right? But, there's also this piece that was missing. And if you tell me to go to another fellowship, I'm already in it, okay? Already working on it. But, that's really been my process, and I'm okay with it, and it doesn't ask that question in the nightly review, right? What have you done well? But I know that it's another literature, and I know that there are several paths to God, and so today, I'm not that obstinate little, brat. I'm willing to take your suggestion, whatever that is. If you have what I want, then I'm willing to do what you do, right? If your spirit shines brightly, I'm willing to take that path to get there. And part of that is answering some of those questions, and having a modest sense of myself where not everything I'm doing is wrong. And just because I make a mistake or just because I struggle with a step here and there, I'm not a POS. That's okay, right? Kids don't know about acronyms. If that's an acronym. I'm so grateful for the love, in Alcoholics Anonymous. My sponsor I call her like a little golden-haired angel. She's got, she's curly blonde hair, and she just exudes happiness and love. And she's going to give me the same hug as the person off of the street who's a little smelly, and has just come into the first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And she's just the greatest example of love. And my God, I am just trying to be that, Sometimes, in my head, I'm just like, what would Colleen do, right? How would Colleen treat this person? And thank God for your demonstrations of love, because you really have taught me what love is for other people and for myself, to really come back to this middle space. The last thing that I want to share are a couple things that I wanted to mention. I love when Erica Maynard does this. I make it a joke, but she goes like this. If you know her, she'll talk to you, and she does this. Yeah, somebody said, yeah, they know. And I've seen her this week, and she's been doing this. And for me, it's just, I know that she's centering herself, and she's bringing God into it. And I love that Jack said that today. He said it's all about love. Last Thoughts, Arizona, David Huff spoke. And, there's just people who stick with you, and he is stuck with me, man. He said some things that just stuck with me. And one of the things that he said was, I know that God's will is simple. He wants you to be happy, joyous, and free. And every morning in my meditation, I ask myself that question, how can I be happy, joyous, and free today? When Leslie came up and spoke, her happiness changed my mood. The nervousness went away, and I felt centered, and I felt God, and it was like a prayer had been answered. And I heard laughter in the other room, and it was just like happy, joyous, and free today, man. That's all you've got. Just go up there and be happy, joyous, and free, and be modest in what you're sharing, and it's God. Maybe it'll help some people, maybe it won't, but that's what I've got. Thanks.
Thank you, Veronica. One of the things I've been doing this quite a while, like 29 years in Al-Anon, and one of the things I've learned over the years is oftentimes the deepest spirituality and the most recovery comes from the quiet person that's at the meeting early and is sitting at the table when the meeting's supposed to start. It's not the person that's banging on the table telling other people they're doing it wrong. And I've had to learn to seek out those people and ask them questions, because they won't come up to you and tell you that you're doing it wrong. You have to ask them how they're doing it to get that lesson. And with that, I'd like to hear from Helen from Washington.
Before we get going, don't time. I know we've been sitting a while, especially this part of the conference, so I've gone to a lot of teacher workshops over the year, and I know that the brain cannot comprehend what the butt can endure. So if you need to go get a drink, go to the restroom, just go ahead. It won't bother me at all. Heck, you can even fall off your chairs, and I'll keep talking because I am a highly trained professional. I'm used to that kind of stuff. However, some people out in the audience like to have scissors, and I will keep an eye on you. I'm just telling you because, again, I am a highly trained professional. So, with that, fasten your seatbelts, hopefully. We don't want to crash. My name is Helen, and I am a member of Al-Anon. Hi. So I have a home group. It is Courage to Change. We meet Sunday nights on Camino Island at Camino Lutheran Church. It is a wonderful group with a lot of recovery. I have been going there since November of 2005. Our group celebrates birthdays. I know it's not always an Al-Anon thing. It's not so we can pat ourselves on the back, but it's so we can celebrate the program works. When we have a commitment, the program works, and it's exciting. I have a sponsor. I'm pretty sure she broke a tradition because she moved away from Camino. I keep telling her that, and she just laughs. I have a standing appointment on my phone at 8:30 every Friday. It goes off, and I know that that's the time I need to call her. She is also a retired teacher, so she likes to give me homework. Lately, she's been giving me a lot of homework on humility. What is up with that? She must need it, right? And I'd like to say that I attend Al-Anon meetings. I have this walk that I'm doing with my husband. Usually I call him Anonymous Husband when I talk, but some of you know him. His goal is to meet all of you and talk to you. So therefore, he won't be anonymous much longer. He's Larry. So, and we've been doing this thing married for 41 years. And it's really because of this. And I love you, dear. So, anyway, got my eyes on you. Here we go. A little bit about how I got to Al-Anon, just to kind of set the stage here, is that I grew up in a family with alcoholism. My dad was an alcoholic. My mom did not go to Al-Anon. We lived in north central Montana. I'm another Montana farm girl. Yeah. We actually talked about where, and she knows where. I know where she lives, so that's kind of unusual. But anyway, there just was a lot of yelling around our farm, which is good because there were neighbors that lived a long way away. So what I learned when I moved away was to yell and to keep alcoholics at arm's length. And those were my strategies as I moved away. So years later, when Larry and I found that our oldest son, Lucas, struggled with alcoholism, I reverted back to those things that I learned. Keep him at arm's length and yell. So I have kind of a loud voice, which is good for a teacher, but not necessarily for a mom. And those things didn't work. And, I often describe it like when he jumped down that deep, dark hole of alcoholism and addiction, I jumped right in after him. I don't know whether it was head first or feet first, but I found myself in a dark, cold, lonely place, and I didn't know how to get out of it. The worst of it is that my heart was just frozen, because that was the only way that I could keep going, keep moving on. And I'm a mom. My heart is not supposed to be frozen for my son. And I am so grateful for Al-Anon that, working the steps. I got into a big book workshop right away. Didn't know I wasn't supposed to be an Al-Anon at a big book workshop, but that's the way we rolled. And I will never understand totally the disease of alcoholism, but academically I knew it. I've taken classes on it, tests, PowerPoints, whatever. But it was all in my head. And during that big book workshop, it finally went from my head to my heart. And as much as I can understand it, it helped to thaw my heart for our son and my dad. By that time, he was gone. But those are the people I love the most. So anyway, I started in with Al-Anon and worked the steps, and here I am. FOTS, we go to FOTS, Arizona, love it. We'll be registering August 1st, and we'll be at Northwest Fellowship of the Spirit. So it's August 24th through the 27th. So if you haven't registered, there's still time. And it's always like Christmas and New Year's all rolled into one, It's like, yay! So I get all these gifts and see these people I like. And always the day after the conferences, that's like my New Year's resolutions. And what is always on my New Year's resolutions? Well, I want to do things better. Right at the top, work step 11 better. So Chris and God have a sense of humor, because that's why I'm here on step 11, so I can work it better. So I could be what you call a non-example in education. So hopefully not. So here's my part. As we go through the day, we pause when agitated or doubtful and ask for the right thought or action. We constantly remind ourselves we are no longer running the show. Humbly saying to ourselves many times each day, "Thy will be done." We are then in much less danger of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. We become much more efficient, We do not tire so easily, for we are not burning up energy foolishly as we did when we were trying to arrange life to suit ourselves. It works. It really does. So right away, I look at that word, pause. When I got into this program, did not know that word. I mean, because look at the tools that I had. I am yelling. That was my first reaction. I tend to react immediately. A lot of times I was a nuclear reactor and exploded most of the time. And my dad used to jokingly say that I was like Mount St. Helens. My name is Helen, so Mount St. Helens. That I blow up from time to time. And I really did, because I just had... my default is fear, and that comes out as anger. And I didn't want to be like that anymore. So I see this word pause, and I go, what does that mean? I heard somebody out of Fox say that I've got to get to God before my head gets to me. And I really like that. But how do I do that? I don't know how to do that. So I go back to the first word of step 11, sought. Now, remember, I'm a teacher. I like homework. I'd rather give it than do it. I have to say that, or correct it. But I decided to seek where I knew. I used the big book, and I used you. That's where I wanted to seek. What do I do in this pause? Okay, I'm not supposed to be doing the things that I did because they just don't work. So what am I going to fill this pause with? How do I see God in it? So what I started with was using the prayers. I mean, the big book is full of prayers. And, being in Al-Anon, actually I sponsor this person, she typed up and laminated all of the, not all, but some of the step prayers in the big book. And, I carried it around with me everywhere. So I just love them, because when I don't know what to say to God, I know I can say one of these prayers, or at least I start one of them, right? If I can just get to the prayer before my mind gets to me, I know I'm on the right track, at least for just a minute, hopefully. So I use the prayers a lot. My commute used to be about 10 minutes long between home and school. And I got used to saying the third step prayer. Once again, as I was driving to school, I'd start the third step prayer. And it's funny, though, now that I'm retired, when I get in the car, I automatically go to the third step prayer. So this is good. I've trained myself well. It is funny that I always used to think that there was a period, relieve me of the bondage of self, period. And then one day I looked at it again and I went, what happened to that period? They must have missed some punctuation there. So no, it's, I did need to get out of Helen, relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. And, that gives me another question about, I don't know God's will. I wish I did. I really do honestly say and pray that I wish God would just text me his will. Then I would feel better about it. It'd be written. So then there's no question. But that usually doesn't happen. So saying the prayers has helped a lot. I used to pray that our son would find a seat in this room, that he would be here. And even though he didn't make it in here, my prayer changed. It was, God, leave the light on. And I too believe that. I believe God is leaving the light on for him. And that prayer has been answered. So I also, we hear prayers at different times too. The serenity prayer, everybody knows that. But after we lost him, I couldn't remember the words to it. I mean, I just blanked out. And I couldn't say them at meetings. I couldn't say them to myself. I couldn't at all. And when I finally said it for the first time, it was just, I needed to know the wisdom to know the truth. And I don't know what the truth was. I don't know why our son was taken away. But the truth was that I was still here, and I still had a life to live, and I still had a family, and I still needed to show up in their lives. So very, very grateful for that. There's another part here too that, we talk about meditation. Oh boy. My meditation, probably because I hung around, I blame this on 8-year-olds, sorry, but I hung out with 8-year-olds all day. Their attention span is really short. So then I thought, okay, that's why I'm teaching 3rd grade, because short attention spans. So when it came to meditation, I tried the old, I'm going to go into the room. I call it my Montana room, because a bunch of, things for my family. I light my candle, and, I have a whole bunch of candles now. I turn on my Calm app, and, and I try to meditate. And, I maybe did it for like 2 days in a row. And then I would just go away again. So, but I kept trying. I do. And anyway, Larry was at a men's retreat. It's funny, our daughter was explaining to our granddaughter, who's 5, why Grandpa wasn't there for a couple of days, and she said, Grandpa's going to camp, honey. So anyway, he came back from this men's retreat, and he said, we did meditation. RPM. I'll show it to you later, RPM. And so I was all excited, RPM, oh my gosh, this must really be something good, right? So, because, they shortened it because it's so technical. So we sit down, and he said, yeah, we're going to do it. And we agreed, 7 p.m. or 7 a.m. every morning, 7 a.m. So RPM is rise, pee, meditate. That's RPM. So we have committed to that, except on days that he golfs, because he golfs at 5 something, whatever. Not doing that. So anyway, on those days I just do it myself. So we set. I still use my Calm app because there's a sound on there that sounds like a creek running, which. There's 2 people in this room who knows where the Bear Paw Mountains are in Montana. Madison and just like, oh yeah, Bear Paws, I was there. And so I'm just picturing myself there, and that's my meditation. And I can stop all of that chatter for, a few seconds at a time, and it's getting easier. It goes by quicker. And hopefully we'll be able to add some more time. But that at least helps me. It centers me. And my day does go better. So during those pauses, I at least have some tools now that I never had before. I heard once that God is in the pause. And I think I heard that at thoughts. And I went, oh my gosh, I've got to write that down, which I did. But then I went, what does that mean? So now when I'm able to pause, I can, insert a prayer in there. So it will help me. I have just one quick reason why I'm up here. I came to Thoughts this year, and I was just feeling so out of sorts, just out of sync. And I just felt like you guys all got it. And I don't, and I'm a phony, and I shouldn't be here. I just felt invisible. I was just fading away, and it was just a horrible feeling. And we went to one of the Al-Anon meetings, which we always do. Hope you do too. And it's we were looking at some absolutes, and this one absolute. It took my breath away, and it says, when I decide I am not worthy, God holds my soul anyway. And I know through the big book and through you that the God of my understanding holds my soul just as much as I know he holds my son's soul. But when I decide I'm not worthy, that's my head getting to me first. So thank God that I am able to have a program and to have a higher power and to have you who help me to pause and get out of that so I can be with you. And even though I kind of wish I were invisible here, so standing up here, but I am so glad to be here. And thank you, Chris, for asking me to share Al-Anon.
Good. All right, let's thank all of our panelists, Leslie, Veronica, and Helen again, please. We have about 4 minutes left, so if anybody would like to come, the microphones are open.
Hi, my name is Rick. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you so much for the lead and for that great panel. I was thinking about the pause, and there's this direct correlation between my morning practice and that pause. I can't pause if I don't start the day with some prayer meditation, right? So what happened was that I was driving to work one morning. I wake up late, rushing out the door. I'm driving to work. This woman turns on her turn signal, and before I can slow down, she comes over, cuts me off. I honk, scream, give her the finger, go to work. And my first coworker gets to work, and I tell them about how this woman cut me off and almost caused an accident, yada, yada, yada. About an hour later, my next coworker shows up, and I tell them about this woman who intentionally cut me off, almost caused a huge accident. Now it's 4:30 in the afternoon. I'm telling a complete stranger in the break room about how this absolute bee almost run me off the road and killed me. And I have wasted the whole day, because I didn't pause. And then there's the mornings where I wake up and I do that prayer meditation, and sometimes it might only be 5 minutes, but I take that time to connect to God. And I get on the road, and the person cuts me off. And my asking God for the right thought or action doesn't usually sound like me asking God for the right thought or action. It's usually literally like, Jesus help me, like Jesus take the wheel. And then it's like, oh, maybe they're a single mom on their way to their job that they will lose if they don't get there in time. And I don't have a miraculous moment. A lot of times, honestly, I'm like, well, that's oddly specific, and it just confuses me long enough to not be resentful anymore. But, there is a direct correlation. Like, I can't pause if I don't wake up in the morning and connect with God. And the only other thing real fast that I'll say is I love the wording of the step. It says, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God. And I cannot tell you how many times over the years I think that I am not connected to God, and that's not true. I can never be more connected to God than I always am. And the issue is never my connection. It is always my awareness of the connection. And I think that is why this prayer meditation is so important, because in the morning it's so important for me to remember as I go about my day that I am connected to God. I'm not powerful enough to not be connected to the most powerful source of the universe, right? And so it's great. It's a great panel. Thank you so much for those reminders as well. Thanks.
Fine. You all know I have no problem closing us down early. I did it yesterday with no announcement. And if you think I don't have control issues, the longer Erica's moment of silence at the end of the meeting goes, the shorter I try to make mine. We're not all here because we're all there. Please remember to clean up the wreckage of your presence and pick up any trash as you exit. By group conscience, the Fellowship of the Spirit Conference does not close each meeting with the Lord's Prayer. Instead, we encourage that this whole conference be treated with an attitude of continuous prayer. And we will then say the Lord's Prayer together at the close of this conference on Sunday. Please stand and help me close this meeting with a moment of silence. Let us share our spiritual experiences and strengths with each other so that we can grow together in greater understanding and love.